Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and this is the Piracy Show. Now on today's show, in the background, you're going to be seeing footage of me once again messing around with my Cutlass. This is my Cutlass where I've stashed all my cargo. Spoiler alert, we're about to lose that cargo. It's going to be a real pain in the butt. I was hoping to go down to a planet and transfer it onto another ship, then put that ship away and see if that worked, but someone was hanging around and I was like, I don't know if I want to take the chance. So I kind of put it away and I said, you know what, let's do a mission and grab another couple of crates. And then lo and behold, the server died. So that's the end of that. But I had fun, not complaining about it because, it was within the rules of the game. And certainly, going down to a station, you're trying to move cargo and someone's lurking about, not a good idea. And crashes, well, early access. That's the life of an early access gamer, right? We're all used to it, so whatever. But there's one thing I wanted to talk about, and it struck me because it's something that comes up in the comments on my videos a lot. And it's like, I hope you don't get offended, or I hope you don't think I'm saying this to you or saying that to you, but I disagree with what you're saying. And, and I always read that and I'm like, well, why would I be offended? Why would I be offended if anybody disagreed with me? I don't understand that. I think maybe some people might look at it as like someone goes and says, I think you're wrong. I think it's this, that, and the other thing. And they go, oh, no, how dare you? I think that is a hallmark of a very weak-minded person. I think that's a hallmark of a very stupid and childish person to just sit there and be like, no, this is why, and that is this. Like, you have to be able to go out and hear other people's opinion and let them attack your ideas like over and over and over again. You have to allow for that because it's the only way to proofread what you're saying. It's the only way to check what you're believing, because if you're just sitting there and you're just saying these things to yourself, or you're just saying these things into a video, I mean, you're pretty much speaking into an echo chamber. Unless, you're reading the comments and you're reading the people who say, I disagree with you because of this, this, and this. And you go, I got to take that into account. Or, no, actually, I already took that into account here. But this other thing that he's saying, that could be true. So maybe I need to factor that in. There are so many places that you can actually draw inspiration for ideas from, like in the Star Citizen universe and just in the arguments that people have. Like even people talking about bugs in the game-breaking bugs that look stupid, and you're just like, wait a minute, that could be a gameplay element. Now I wish I had footage of this, I really do, and I think I did at one point, but I erased it. And it really kills me now that I'm making this video. But there used to be, on the Starfarer, on the dark side of Delamar, when you're picking up the crates, there used to be a bug where the texture for the ground in the bottom part of the in the Starfarer, the texture for the ground would overlay over the crate once you picked it up sometimes. So it would almost kind of semi-camo the crate with some kind of error. Not sure what caused it, not sure how the interplay between all those objects, but the fact is it happened. Now, some people might go, oh, well, that's just a bug. And I looked at it and I said, wait. But that opens a door. That kicks open a door. That kicks open the door for optical camouflage. How would that work? What would you do with optical camouflage? What could you do with optical camouflage? How could you make it fair and bring it into the game in an interesting and an exciting way? And so my head just started turning. I said, take a ship like the Eclipse. Now, the Eclipse is, of course, a ship that arrived to a lot of fanfare. It's a great design. I like the design. It has always been logical. I've kind of had an issue about it being, kind of just a bomber. But what if we were to take the Eclipse and make a variant of the Eclipse? What if that variant was entirely de-weaponized? Now, think about it for a second. No weapons, but a ship that also came with optical camouflage. So it would kind of semi-show the texture of what was below it to anything above it, whatever was on the side to the side, that sort of thing. It wouldn't perfectly camouflage it, but it would make it very difficult to spot. Of course, the other side of that is you can't really use it to any advantage in combat because it doesn't have any weapons. Instead, the bomb bay is removed and it's replaced with this little small storage area where you can maybe keep some armor, some guns, maybe a few crates, maybe 5 or 6 in a little elevator that hides up underneath, that kind of closes up. And the rest of that space is used for, and all that equipment is used for the best sensor package in the game and increased range. Now you have this really stealthy ship that lets people kind of move around quietly, lets you infiltrate, and some people would say, oh, well, you're a pirate and you just want to use it to gank other players. It doesn't have weapons. It can't be used directly as a weapon. It can be used to gather intelligence, but it can't be used as a weapon. And this also serves any player who's sitting there and going, you know what, I want to kind of be the ghost in the Star Citizen universe. I want to kind of move around where people can't see me. And I want to sneak around and be all sly and shit like that. And I want to get my missions done. I want part of the game to be moving around quietly and never getting seen. People like that might really dig a ship like this. And I thought that would be something really intriguing. That would be something I'd like to see some discussion about, because a de-weaponized ship, entirely de-weaponized, meant for infiltration and completing missions, you know, where you have to go down to a planet, maybe you have to retrieve a couple of things, but you have to go in on foot. So you park this thing further away, then you use the optical camo to hide it, go in, try to do the mission solo, and then come back, bring back the cargo, that kind of sneaking around. I thought that would be a really interesting ship to have. But, you know, all of that came from just this one random bug that I saw in the game when I just saw the texture for the ground projected onto the crate I was carrying, and I was like, so optical camo would be possible in the game. I'm not saying that it's something that should be done today or tomorrow, or like, but it's definitely an idea I would like to see explored. I mean, I know that every once in a while some of you will send me your ship ideas, like, what if I did this ship? What if I did that ship? That's something that I would like to see explored. An infiltrator ship. I think that would be something interesting, but obviously I've taken a wide path here and I digress. But you never know where you're going to find inspiration for ideas. You never know where people are going to give you ideas, whether it's a ship or a tactic or any number of things. Like, you never know where that can come from. And sometimes it's in being the naysayer that you can kind of look at something and you can look past the glitz and the hype, and you can kind of say, okay, you know what, I don't think that in fact is going to be a good ship. Like, oh god. Around this time last year, you may or may not have noticed, I kicked up a little bit of a controversy in talking about the Prowler. Okay. Now, of course, the Prowler was the stealth drop ship that was sold at last year's anniversary sale. Yeah. And when I kind of looked at it in a critical way, I said, you know what, there's a lot of features here I like. You got the drop slots out of the side of it right there. You've got, you know, that you had a rear entryway. It didn't have a lot of guns, but I argued that, you know, it's a stealth ship. It's not meant as a fighter, so it doesn't really need those guns, and maybe that adds an added stealth element, not having as many guns to it. So you can get around, you can put troops or even a few players down where you need them to put. And I mean, when we're looking at missions like this actually comes in handy. You start thinking like, okay, this could be a really good ship in this situation, because now you can sneak around and you can kind of drop in troops, you can achieve mission objectives. That might seem like a ship that I would really want. And there are a lot of features about it I liked, but in the end, my decision against it came to the fact that it was over $400 for something that was more or less, I mean, honestly, just kind of a glorified stealth cutlass. That was the make or break point for me. In that, it was that this was essentially a $400+ cutlass that really just did not justify the price. And somebody came on one of my videos and left a comment saying, well, I seem to remember you buying a $350 Van Duel Glaive back in the day. Yeah, and I also seem to remember making 5 or 6 videos where I talked about it, and I was agonizing over the decision of should I keep it, because I felt that I really couldn't justify spending that much money on one ship where I could probably spend it somewhere else and get a heck of a lot more value for my money and end up just buying this ship in game anyway. The Prowler, its biggest problem for me, the biggest thing that I did not like about the Prowler is it didn't allow for any cargo. It didn't allow for any cargo. It should allow for at least a little bit of cargo. Maybe 5 or 6 crates, something like that. And not only that, but room obviously for guns, because you're going to need them, different types of armor, that sort of stuff. But it should allow for a little bit of cargo, and that was one of the things that kind of said, I'm going to have to wait to see what's possible with this thing in game and see how it's built out, because I can't really justify it. I'm sorry, but I just could not justify that ship with that combination of missing things in that price. I just said, I'll wait to see this in game, and then I'll see how it all plays out. I may end up getting one. I might end up getting one of these ships, but not for $400+ for what is more or less just a glorified stealth cutlass. I mean, realistically, yeah, the Prowler is a cool looking ship. It's an interesting looking ship, but for $100 more, you can get a Hammerhead, right? So, come on, it doesn't make sense. I think that that ability to kind of to get to still be able to get swept up in the hype of something, to still look at something and say, oh, this is so exciting, and oh, this is so great, and I imagine all the cool things I can do with this, but then to come back and take those same ideas and then to attack them yourself and say, prove this to me, prove that to me. I think that's a healthy mindset to have, especially with some of these ships. Some people say, oh, Star Citizen's never going to be this or that or the other thing. And for me, when I went into Star Citizen, I went in with the critical mind. I just said, look, can Star Citizen meet these few basic points? Do I think that Chris Roberts is going to hit these few basic points? Is there going to be a big universe with a whole bunch of planets? Yeah. Can I do all kinds of crime stuff, sneaking around stuff, sort of like playing some even more futuristic Metal Gear game with all kinds of with FPS elements that I really wish the Metal Gear games had, but in a much huger open world where I can do all kinds of stuff with different vehicles and different ships? Can it have all these things, and can I get in with at least 20 or 30 friends and play together? Do I think that they can deliver that? Yes, I think that they can. That was my bare minimum for getting into Star Citizen. Do I think that they can hit these points? Yes, and I think that they will. Since that's my my bare minimum expectation, I'm not really overly disappointed when I see that, we're getting to 50 players and we're starting to really see some problems. Doesn't really kick me in the nards too bad, because my expectations were lower, so there's nowhere to go but up, because I came at it from a very critical point of view and said, this is, I think, the bare minimum they can achieve, but it's acceptable to me. So anything beyond that is just icing on the cake for me. Which, in a way, it kind of allows me to be kind of a realist and a pragmatist, but at the same time, it still allows me to be surprised and to be happy when good things happen with the game. But to bring it all back, don't ever be afraid to disagree with me in the comments or say ooh, I don't want you to be offended, but I think this and I think you're wrong on that. Don't be. don't be afraid to put that comment up. I want to read that comment because I want to know what other people think, because you might see something I don't. You might see a possibility that I don't. And, as long as it's within, a minimum of what we expect the game to be, and not based off of some, kind of pie in the sky theory of, what is possible in Star Citizen, but something realistically that we can expect, I'll give it a fair amount of thought. I don't shy away from discussing these topics. I mean, I've had hour-long debates over issues of visibility and issues of ship design with people, and I don't shy away from that. And I find that often, like, those kinds of discussions can be very telling when you're dealing with people and personalities, and you can kind of see, like, okay, I think I understand you more as a person now that I see how you argue and stuff like that. It can be an interesting insight into people. But moreover, I mean, it can reveal different facets of an equation that you never saw before. It can point out things, and you might look at it and say, oh, it's going to be good, it's going to be that, it's going to be the other thing too. And you go, well, actually, I never thought of that other thing. That's true. That's a good point. That's a good point. That would be really interesting if you can combine those two things together. That could actually be a really great ship. A while ago, I had actually kind of flirted with the idea of the Cutlass Red as a smuggling ship, and I made a video about it, and I was talking about, what I would do is I would actually be in the system where I wanted to do all the smuggling, where I wanted to move stuff around. I would actually be the super friendliest guy in the Cutlass Red, always there to help, always a buddy, always a pal, always there to help rescue people and get them out of a bind, that sort of thing. So people would look at, like Captain Kevin or Captain Skip Douglas and be like, oh, wow, he's super friendly. He's a great guy. Hey, buddy. He's like, hey, how are you doing? Is everything okay? Can I help you in any way? That sort of thing. But in the meantime, using the same Cutlass and using its cargo capacity to smuggle valuables around, and everyone would probably just be like, oh no, he's a super friendly guy, leave him alone. Even though we're kind of like criminals in this system, that guy's helped us out a few times. He's always super friendly, so we just let him slide. And meanwhile, I'm moving like millions in UEC worth of cargo around, and nobody knows. I was like, I wonder if you could play that, if you could RP that hard enough that, whoop, almost let you on my ship there, Mr. Sneaky. You thought I didn't notice, didn't you? Look at you now running around. You're lucky this is an armistice zone. That's the thing about being a pirate. You got to have that sixth sense. You got to know when things aren't going your way. There's your ship. You thought you were real crafty, didn't you? Minion soldier escapes again. But unfortunately, yeah, the game does crash, and I do end up losing all my precious cargo that I was trying to save up. But who knows? We got another patch today, so I'm going to test it out, and hopefully it's a little bit more stable than this one was. But iterative process, we'll get there. But, to get back to the topic at hand, like, I've seen people put up some great ideas, some fantastic ideas around piracy and smuggling. I saw one guy putting up an idea that was, I wish I could remember where I saw it, but it was such a good idea. He was talking about smuggling into high security systems, and he was talking about, kind of modeling it on sort of like cartel behavior, where it's a question of volume, where you basically get a series of dupes to carry your cargo for you into a system, labeling it as this, that, or the other thing, but inside of it is actually, space drugs or whatever.
and you're just kind of packing it up and shipping it off using a third party as whatever, you know, like it's coffee beans, or it's, you know, tractor parts or whatever. And you're shipping, you know, you're pre-preparing these packages, and then you're using, say, someone with a hauley or whoever happens to come in and pick up the cargo to run that cargo for you. And if some of it gets stopped along the way, then that person's the smuggler, and that's the person who's going to pay the penalty. But you, as the originator, can just keep shipping enough through that so much, you know, in so much volume that enough of it's going to get through that you're going to make a serious profit, and all the dupes or patsies that are delivering it for you, well, that's their problem. And I thought that, you know, that's kind of a devious way of looking at it. But if you can produce in very high volumes, and your production costs are that low and your selling costs are that high, that could be a viable thing. That could be interesting. That could be worth exploring. And they would know what they're carrying if you can in fact do something like that. If, you know, that requires that you can mislabel cargo and then ship it through a third party. If that is possible, that's actually interesting. That's smart thinking, you know, for a criminal. Now, even the idea that we were talking about just a couple of days ago, when we were shutting down the comma race, and I was kind of sitting there and I was thinking about, could you creep up on them, and could you just, I mean, in the end game, I mean, would there be enough missions around that somebody could say, go out and just have a Hornet Ghost, and if they were really good at manipulating their signatures and really lowering them down, could they just pick up all the comma ray missions, which actually don't pay all that bad, and just kind of line them all up, and then just go from comma ray to comma ray doing the missions and just creeping up on them real slow, and then just kind of using like minimum power settings to just maybe slide right in there and no one would see you, and you could just kind of hop out of the cockpit, go inside, trigger the comma ray, turn it off, collect the reward, get back in the Hornet, and just creep away real slow. And maybe because you're not giving off that much of a, you know, a signature, nobody knows you're there, and you could just keep going from comma ray to comma ray. Do you think that possibly you could make a living doing that in the game? That could be maybe your starting kind of bag of tricks. This is, you know, I'm going to go into the game, I'm going to get a Hornet Ghost, and this is going to be something that I'm going to do. This is going to be how I make my money in the beginning, is I'm going to be sneaking around doing this. And then as I learn more about the game, then I'm going to add some new tricks, and I'm going to do these other missions, and I'm going to use this ship or that ship, or maybe I'll still use the Hornet Ghost, but I'm going to use it in this way, you know. That's kind of, you know, those different ideas that can be inspired just by doing something, or just by seeing what someone else wrote. You can kind of look at it and say, you know, there's a good idea. Let's expand on it even further, and let's take it and apply it over to this thing. There's a lot of, you know, and it's that discourse, it's that back and forth, it's the conversation, it's that gets ideas rolling. It's the disagreements and the differing point of views where things really get interesting, and where you can really start to see some real diamonds come out of the coal, so to speak, when maybe that original idea was a lump of coal, but maybe there's a diamond in there. You never know. And you just got to keep, you know, kind of poking holes at the idea and chipping away at it to see what, if anything, of value there is in there. So yeah, never feel bad about putting up a comment and saying I have a differing opinion. I'm happy to see differing opinions, because that's where the real value is extracted from ideas, is once they come under attack, and you have to start boiling them down and chipping away the detritus and finding that diamond in the rough, that gem hidden in there. That's when you really get the value. So yeah, so that has been the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I am now creeping up on a mission site, and sadly I'm about to lose my Cutlass because I get server disconnected. Wah, wah, wah. But yeah, that's pretty much what happens. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. and thanks for watching.